K-PAX Racing returned to the Pirelli World Challenge on the streets of St. Petersburg and picked up right where they left off, earning McLaren GT its first win of the season. With Alvaro Parente spraying champagne from the top of the podium, newcomer Brian Sellers landed in the top 5 in his Pirelli World Challenge GT debut. After a win due to a competitor's disqualification at Long Beach last year, Parente came into round 3 ready to prove something. After setting another track record for the GT class in qualifying, Parente started on pole and never looked back, capturing his second victory of the season. This time, he was joined on the podium by fellow driver Brian Sellers, who finished third. Virginia International Raceway marked the start of the Sprint X portion of the season. The VIR field was chock full of competitive and talented drivers, and K-PAX Racing was no different, entering 3 cars and 6 drivers. The number 9 McLaren 650S, piloted by Ben Barnicoat, who was driving in America for the first time, and Alvaro Parente came together for a second-place podium finish. The series then traveled north of the border to visit the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario, where the defending champs had many fans awaiting their arrival for the second series of the Sprint X races. The schedule for Day 2 was cancelled as Mother Nature flooded the track with small rivers, so the team packed up to return stateside to one of the most historic road courses of Lime Rock Park. But historic or not, Barnicoat is racing this track for the first time following in Parente's shoes, who was only introduced to the course in 2016. Despite the lack of familiarity, K-PAX Racing qualified its 2 pro cars in the top 10. A heady first stint by Barnicoat, followed by a spirited drive by Parente, resulted in a solid third-place finish in Race 1. On Day 2, Barnicoat and Parente repeated their Day 1 performance, duplicating their third-place finish. Landing on the podium in both days of racing was a feat the duo was happy to achieve. The series returned to Sprint GT competition at Road America, with Alvaro Parente and Brian Sellers fueled with determination from their Long Beach podium wins. Parente managed to climb from starting in 9th on Day 1 to finish 6th in both races, with Sellers taking 9th place and rounding out the top 10 in Day 2. Mid-Ohio is where K-PAX Racing met up with Lady Luck, and she brought a broom. Alvaro Parente qualified for the pole start and had a perfect race to land himself on top of the podium, with Sellers taking the Best Start award and a 4th place finish. Day 2 was less kind to Parente, but it enabled him to show his competitiveness and true drive, as a post-race penalty set him back 3 spots from his initial starting position on pole. After gaining back the ground and earning best move of the race by overtaking the leader, Parente went on to finish in first place with a 6.6 second lead. At 4,500 feet above sea level, K-PAX Racing welcomes back the teammates for the Sprint X race in Utah. With Ben Barnicoat and Michael Lewis behind the wheel to start the finale of the weekend, both teams gained ground from Day 1. With Parente and Barnicoat finishing just shy of the top 5 in Race 1, they battled back for a Day 2 4th place finish. The Circuit of Americas, which was now a 3-race Sprint X weekend to make up for the earlier CTMP rain cancellation, although adversity had reared its ugly head for a 21st place finish on Day 1, Barnicoat and Parente held strong for 2 4th place finishes in races 2 and 3. Lewis and Sellers finished with 8th, 13th, and rounded out the top 5 in Day 3. Heading into the season finale at the Grand Prix of Sonoma, driver Alvaro Parente trailed Porsche driver Patrick Long by a mere 5 points. In Race 1, Parente charged through the field, climbing 5 positions to finish in 2nd place for his 8th podium finish of the season. Entering Race 2, Parente trailed Long by a mere 4 points. Parente was on the charge from the start, passing 2 cars before the second corner. Then Parente's car was spun by contact in turn 2 of lap 1. At the conclusion of the spin, the number 9 car was hit by another car that had nowhere to go. Brian Sellers finished 4th in the final round on Sunday. After a brief break following the conclusion of the official Pirelli World Challenge season, K-PAX Racing fielded 3 talented drivers for the inaugural California 8-hour endurance course. Alvaro Parente, Brian Sellers, and Ben Barnicoat qualified for a 5th place start in their first journey as one team. After 8 hours on the road, well-timed pit stops, hard work, and great driving, K-PAX Racing was one of only 3 teams on the lead lap, landing on the podium with a 3rd place finish. With the 2017 K-PAX Racing season complete, it's time to see how they did. In the overall GT standings, Alvaro Parente finished in 3rd place with teammate Brian Sellers in 7th, and the McLaren GT earning 3rd in the Manufacturer Championship. Alvaro Parente ended in 2nd place in the Sprint GT Championship, Brian Sellers finished 5th, and K-PAX Racing finished 2nd overall in the Team Championship. In the Sprint X GT Championship, the duo of Alvaro Parente and Ben Barnicoat finished in 7th, Brian Sellers finished 11th, and Michael Lewis in 18th. K-PAX Racing earned 4th place in the Team Championship. Thanks for joining us this season. We'll see you next year.